So, how good is Geno Smith exactly? What's going on, everybody? Good morning. It is Victory Monday around here. The Seahawks are 2-0, and we've got a lot of stuff to get to later today. We've got some PFF numbers to look at. We've got some snap counts to look at. We might have some injury updates on a couple players later today, although, let's be real here, the way Mike Macdonald seems to like to do things, we're not going to learn a lot. But before we get to all of that, I want to talk a little bit more about Geno Smith. And we talk about Geno Smith a lot around here because he's the quarterback of this team, and also because he's so polarizing. And there's so much debate about what Geno Smith is and how good he is and what this team is as long as he's here. And quite honestly, you're not going to find very many games that he's played that were better than the one that he played yesterday. I can think of a couple games he's played against the Detroit Lions. I can think of maybe one or two other games where he was a little bit better than he was yesterday, but to go on the road, 10 a.m., overcome a defense that I think was a little bit disappointing, overcome a lot of drops. We are talking at least 4, maybe 5 drops. And to do what he did in that game to win it was remarkable. And I was going through some of the things that people were saying after this game concerning just kind of football in general. And Jacob Gibbs here, he's a fantasy guy. I have his tweet on screen here. He had a long tweet thread, and this was part of it. Go check out the whole tweet thread, by the way, if you get the opportunity to. It has other stuff about the Seahawks in there. He had some fun stuff on JSN. He had some stuff on Charbonnet as well. But I really want to talk about this tweet right here. And you can see it on screen if you're looking at, the video here. So let's examine this real quick here. Let's try to understand what we're talking about with Geno Smith through 2 games. So early charting, so it's not finalized yet, has Geno Smith with 0 off-target throws. 0 off-target throws. This is notable because Geno Smith also had 0 off-target throws last week against Denver. And remember, this is context-based, right? They're not going to count a play where he's getting blasted as he throws the ball, obviously. This is somebody, or a group of people, who watch every single play and judge every play within context. Yes, I'm sure if you wanted to be very pedantic about it, Geno Smith on the first throw of the season when he throws the ball right to, I think it's Alex Singleton, yeah, that's not an on-target throw. That's clearly an off-target throw. That ball did not go where he wanted it to go, but he got blasted as he threw the ball, so what are you going to do? But 0 off-target throws through 2 games, according to charting. And read the rest of this. If true, that would be the first time since 2021, so that's a few seasons now, that a quarterback, any quarterback in the NFL, has hit the following thresholds. 40 or more dropbacks. Geno Smith has certainly dropped back to pass more than 40 times over the first 2 games. Average depth of target of at least 8 yards. 0 off-target throws. So basically, the volume is there. He's throwing the ball a lot. The pushing the ball down the field aspect is there. He's throwing the ball down the field. He's trying to fit the ball into tight windows. He's attacking the intermediate and even a little bit of the deep areas of the defense. He's not just checking everything down and making everything easy. And he has not missed yet through 2 games against defenses that are probably going to be pretty good this year. And you see something like this, and you think to yourself, I think Geno Smith is good. I've said it many times on this channel. Honestly, I think he's really good. I think he's a really good quarterback. I've argued that he's pretty clearly, based on context, a top 10 quarterback in this league. And me saying that is not a good reflection of the quarterbacks in this league right now, admittedly, right? It's a poor reflection of the way quarterbacks are playing right now. But that doesn't change the fact that Geno Smith, I believe, is a top 10 quarterback. But you look at something like this and you're like, maybe I'm not going far enough. This is something that hasn't been done in almost a full presidential term. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about this, and I just kind of want to explore a few things with Geno Smith here. But before I go any further, I hope you like this video. If you do, please like it. Click the thumbs up button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and you want daily Seahawks content. Click the bell for notifications. Become a channel member for $2 a month. Those are the best ways to support the channel. So you look at something like this, and then you think about the context, where the offensive line has been more bad than good. The receivers, they're obviously very good, but we know we have drops. We had 4 to 5 drops yesterday. Denver game, not so much. I don't think there were a lot of drops in that game. I think DK maybe dropped 1. But that's a decent chunk of his incomplete passes are drops or almost drops or pseudo drops or kind of drops. And you go over and look and see what this is resulting in. You sort every team in the league by points per game scored. The Seahawks are currently top 9. Saints, Cardinals, Eagles, Bills, Bucks, Chiefs, Cowboys, Vikings, and then the Seahawks settle in at 9th. By the way, if the Eagles have a bad game tonight and don't score very much, they're going to fall behind the Seahawks. They're going to actually fade to below the top 10, pending what happens tonight with that Eagles offense. Oh, by the way, the Vikings have scored a touchdown on defense this year. So if you remove that, you would push the Seahawks up to 8th. Oh, by the way, the Cowboys have scored a special teams touchdown this year. You could bump them down below the Seahawks. Now you're 7th. Oh, by the way, the Chiefs have scored a defensive touchdown yesterday. The Bills have scored a defensive touchdown. Now that still wouldn't bump them below. But the point is, you actually start filtering the offense only. If you look at just the offense, because the Seahawks have not scored points on defense or special teams yet this year, everything's been offensively generated. They are actually borderline elite offensively, and they've done this with the offensive line, which we've already established has been far more bad than good. They've done it with a rushing attack that was really good in the first game, but second game basically non-existent. Lead running back has only played 1 of the 2 games. They probably got a bigger case of the dropsies than most other teams. I don't know if other teams out there have dropped 5 or 6 passes, but I know mine has. And again, we don't have Andy Reid here. We don't have Kyle Shanahan here. Ryan Grubb's great so far, but he hasn't built up the credibility of the great ones. So how are we pulling this off? Like I just said, we're 9th, but if you take these 3 teams down a peg because they've scored non-offensive touchdowns, you're actually up to 6th. And if the Eagles do poorly tonight, you could end up being 5th. You're top 5. Why? Because of Geno Smith, right? That's been the one consistent element over these 2 games. Tyler Lockett had a good game against the Broncos, but he was barely there against the Patriots. Metcalf and JSN were huge yesterday. Didn't see them that much in that first game. Him and Charles Cross are the only consistent parts of this offense so far, and I just broke it down to you. The offense is much closer to the top 5 through 2 games than you might think. So I gotta ask, through 2 games, and I know it's just 2 games, who are the top 5 quarterbacks in the league? Derek Carr is clearly number 1. Like, Derek Carr is lapping the field. I think you'd put Kyler Murray up there, even though they lost a game. I think Kyler's played really well. Josh Allen, probably. Yeah. Didn't play great on Thursday night, but that's only because he didn't have to. Baker Mayfield. Geno Smith. In some order, is it those 5 guys? Mahomes has turned the ball over a few times already. Dak hasn't looked that good overall. Dak just managed the first game and he lost the second game in a big margin. Maybe Sam Darnold's been pretty good, I guess, but I certainly wouldn't rock him up there like that. CJ Stroud's been good. Lamar's put up big numbers, but his team isn't really scoring, and he's not winning games, so I don't think it's him. Yeah, is Geno Smith a top 5 quarterback? And let's keep in mind here, he's not playing terrible defenses right now. Like, in the case of somebody like a Baker Mayfield, you could really argue that first game that he lit up Washington, that's a terrible defense. Derek Carr put up a bunch of his numbers on the Carolina Panthers. That's just a terrible team. That Cardinals, their offensive explosion yesterday came against the Rams. As of right now, the Seahawks have played the Broncos. Their defense looks at least okay through 2 games. I'd say it looks better than average, but we're going to have to take some time to find out for sure. And they played New England. They're probably going to have a good defense this year. By the way, he's not playing in a dome. He's not playing in climate-controlled conditions. Both his games have been outdoors. One game's been on the road in Foxborough. So, again, I want to stress, right now, through 2 games, I think we're talking about a top 5 quarterback here. And, I'm not somebody who ever really called Geno Smith top 5, and I'm not saying that he is yet. You have to repeat that success over and over and over again. But for us to be this successful offensively through 2 games, despite having so many issues that these other teams don't have. The Chiefs don't have these problems. The Bills don't have these problems. Is Geno Smith, putting himself in the MVP conversation so far? I think the answer is pretty clear here. Through 2 games, I don't think there's much you can take away from him. The answer is clearly yes. He's not playing as well as Derek Carr, but he is not terribly far behind. So, I just wanted to talk about that a little bit before we got the day started. We got plenty more videos to make, but Geno is... I know he's not necessarily making the fantasy football owners happy, which is, this is why I don't really like fantasy football. People get too caught up in the, stupid things that they don't need to be caught up in, instead of actually watching the game and trying to understand what's going on in football terms. But you look at the numbers, you look at the context, you look at the raw performance, there's something very special going on here. And I hope people realize what's going on here. I hope people realize that right now, through the first couple games of the season, we don't have a good quarterback. We don't have a very good quarterback. We don't even have a great quarterback. We have an elite quarterback. And if that holds, then the sky is the limit here. Because these other things that aren't here right now, they should start to come. The offensive line should play better just by virtue of the fact that eventually things get better as everybody gets familiarity and comfort with each other. The drops should be reduced because teams typically don't have more than 1 or 2 drops per game. Having 4 or 5 in one game is an aberration. The run defense, that should get better too. You don't expect your run defense to give up 180 yards rushing in a game against pretty much anybody in the modern NFL. That should get better just because we get our linebackers back and our defensive line gets more comfort playing with each other. But this is here right now, and we are 2-0 because of it. We are 2-0 largely because Geno Smith has been the steady, consistent force of, I'm going to say it, elite play through 2 games. It's going to take a lot of work to keep it up. If he falls off of this pace, of course we will talk about it. But right now we are getting something truly special that we are not paying nearly enough money for. For this level of play, most teams would have to pay close to double what the Seahawks are paying him. Maybe more than double, honestly, the way things are going. And I feel like because it's Geno Smith, people don't see it. Because in people's minds, the idea of Geno Smith being an elite quarterback is so far from what is possible that it's not even worth thinking about, right? You don't even consider it because it's Geno Smith. Maybe he's good. Maybe he's decent. Maybe he's even really good, but he's not elite. Well, through 2 games, we got something. But of course, through 2 games, Sam Darnold's been pretty elite too, so got to keep it up. See you guys later. Go Hawks.